There are currently no indications of Russia's concrete intentions for war against NATO. That's what Bruno Kohl, president of Germany's Federal Intelligence Service, BND, stated confidently just a few months ago in November 2024. At the time, it seemed almost reassuring. But fast forward to March 2025, and that statement already feels dangerously outdated, because now German intelligence isn't just warning about a potential confrontation with Russia, they're setting an actual time frame, a countdown clock. And spoiler alert, it's much closer than anyone hoped. Today, we dive deep into the shocking intelligence reports, NATO's scramble to respond, and how Russia's true plans are being exposed right before our eyes. Stick around, you need to hear this. Russia's imperial strategy. European intelligence agencies, especially Germany's BND and Bundeswehr, have been watching Russia's behavior very closely since the start of the Ukraine invasion. And the grim conclusion? Ukraine was never the final goal. According to reports by Süddeutsche Zeitung, WDR, and NDR, President Vladimir Putin sees NATO not just as a threat, but as a systemic enemy that must be weakened by force. He's actively preparing for a long-term confrontation with the West. These reports suggest Putin isn't simply obsessed with Ukraine, his real target is the very fabric of NATO's unity. Intelligence experts believe Russia is planning to test NATO's response, especially Article 5, to see whether the US and Europe would really defend each other under pressure. No one can breathe easy. If you think a ceasefire in Ukraine would bring peace to Europe, think again. General Carsten Brewer, Germany's Inspector General of the Bundeswehr, was asked if Europe could relax once the fighting in Ukraine ends. His answer was direct: no, we cannot breathe easy. This stark warning highlights how dangerous the situation really is. If Ukraine falls, Russia could immediately refocus its military might toward Europe. And even if Ukraine holds out, German intelligence predicts that Russia will be militarily ready for a full-scale war against NATO by 2029 or 2030. It's a lose-lose timeline for Europe, and that's if things go well. Russia's losses, but still dangerous. You might ask, how could Russia even think about fighting NATO after the bloodbath it suffered in Ukraine? The numbers are brutal. According to Ukraine's general staff, by early April 2025, Russia had lost over 920,000 troops, killed, wounded, or captured. That's nearly 1 million soldiers in just over 3 years. Their equipment losses are equally catastrophic. 10,500 tanks, 25,600 artillery systems, 370 aircraft, 31,000 drones, 28 naval ships. And yet, despite these historic losses, Russia's military spending is surging to record levels, now at 13.5 trillion rubles in 2025, over 6% of their GDP. Adjusted for purchasing power, that's roughly $460 billion, matching all of Europe combined. Russia's resilience should not be underestimated. 1.5 million soldiers incoming. Russia's military isn't just patching up its losses, it's growing at a terrifying pace. Moscow plans to have 2.39 million soldiers by 2026, with 1.5 million of them active troops. In April 2025 alone, Russia conscripted 160,000 new men, the largest draft since 2011. And while Russia claims these conscripts won't be sent directly into Ukraine, the massive size of this mobilization suggests something much bigger is brewing. Add to this the fact that Russia is restructuring its military districts, including a new command in St. Petersburg, pointed squarely at the West. NATO strikes back. NATO, to its credit, isn't sitting idle either. Secretary General Mark Rutte made it crystal clear an attack on any NATO member will trigger a devastating response, full stop. Meanwhile, Europe is rapidly boosting its defenses. Poland, for instance, is spending a staggering 4.1% of its GDP on the military, and even more than the United States. And across the European Union, the new rearm Europe Readiness 2030 plan is pumping $880 billion into defense upgrades over the next 5 years. New missile defenses, more artillery production, drone fleets, and anti-drone tech, faster troop movement, stronger cybersecurity. Europe is preparing for the worst, and they have no illusions about the stakes anymore. Russia's hybrid war is already here. But here's the scary part. The war has already begun, and most people don't even realize it. Russian intelligence, specifically the GRU, has unleashed a massive campaign of sabotage across Europe, targeting railroads, airports, ports, 27%, military bases and government sites, 27%, energy grids, pipelines, fiber optic cables, 21%, MI6 in Britain, German domestic intelligence, and Lithuania's VSD, all confirm that Russian operatives are already active in Europe, disrupting infrastructure, spreading disinformation, and preparing the battlefield for future conflicts. Who's next? So which country could Russia target first if they want to test NATO? Poland is a prime candidate, a key NATO member, a major supporter of Ukraine, and sitting right on Russia's doorstep. The Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, are vulnerable, small, and heavily dependent on NATO backing. Even Germany, with its massive military aid to Ukraine, could find itself in the crosshairs. Other possibilities, Sweden and Finland, both of whom just joined NATO, could face Russian retaliation, or even Bulgaria, France, or Spain, given their support for Ukraine. The terrifying truth is that an attack could happen anywhere, and it's no longer a matter of if, but when. The reality is clear. Russia's military buildup, hybrid attacks, and open preparations mean that Europe is racing against time. By 2029 to 2030, Russia could have the full capability to launch a war against NATO, but if Ukraine collapses sooner, that war could come much faster. The only question now, is NATO truly ready to stand united, or will Putin's gamble succeed? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Was Ukraine just the beginning? Which NATO country could be the first target? Smash that like button if you learned something today. Subscribe for more real-world war briefings.